let's get started. Well, thank you, Troy, for taking the time with me to share your story. And I think what's a um, mind-blowing game changer technology. I mean, I'm not a tech person, but I do think like even I got pretty excited about about this technology. So I really think, like this should be brought to my audience and they can know something that probably they didn't know that it ever existed. And before we get started, I have to say the disclaimer to everybody all the time. So the information provided here is for educational purpose only. All information provided here is provided in good faith. However, we make no representation or warranty of any kind expressly implied regarding the accuracy, validity, reliability, availability, or completeness of any information provided. Again, like I didn't verify any of the information during the interview. It's up for everyone else. If you're interested, do your own due diligence, okay? So under no circumstance shall we have any liability to you for any loss or damage of any kind incurred as a result of the use of the information shared here or reliance on any information provided here. Your use of information and your reliance on any information provided here is solely at your own risk. Okay, now that we've got that out of the way, let's start. So, like, what is the big idea? I still cannot, like, I've seen so many pitches. This is one of the things that the idea really stuck in my mind. And it's not just idea, like you guys have the technology, have proven to work. So like, just tell us, what is it that you're working on?
Yeah, so my background is building renewable energy infrastructure. I have 4 meaningful exits, including a company that was a Deca unicorn. It's a $35 billion division of Enel Green Power, the multinational Italian utility giant. So building solar farms and wind farms, the biggest impediment to the growth of more clean energy is lack of transmission lines. In North America and Europe, it takes 15 years to build them. But if you put them underground, the permits can get done in 15 months rather than 15 years. So I invented a plasma tunnel boring robot. So think Star Wars lightsabers to bore quickly underground using just low cost electricity from solar and wind. And air, which is free. Those are the 2 inputs. And so basically using electricity to do the work that used to be done by drill bits or cutting heads, people, chemicals, lubricants, bentonite, drilling mud, all that kind of stuff goes away. We just use electricity and air, and the lightsabers vaporize the rock and soil, and we can go up to 100 times faster. Anywhere from 10 to 100 times faster than conventional technology for tunneling and excavation, and anywhere from 2 times to 9 times less expensive.
So what you're saying is that, did I understand right? Like you melt rocks without contact. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, non-contact. Yeah, we don't touch it. It's non-mechanical. It's energetic drilling and excavation.
Okay. And sorry, remind me again, the 2 energy sources that you use is wind and is electricity?
Well, it's just electricity. And so we can get electricity from the grid with temporary power at the construction site or with a mobile substation, or if we have to bring a generator in, about 1 megawatt generator. It's not a crazy amount of power. So anyway, electricity is really our only input other than air, which is free.
Okay. Okay. And so I mean, people have been, moving mountains and like breaking rocks for like centuries. Like,
Yeah.
so I'm sure there are ways that people are doing today just fine. So,
Yeah.
like, why do you do it?
Yeah, for sure. So, first of all, there's a huge passive income opportunity here. If we own tunnels, we can lease out space to utilities and, charge rent for decades, right? Or charge a toll on all the commodities flowing through our tunnels. And so our business model is to own the tunnel. But why does it exist? Going faster and cheaper is super important because today, to put new transmission or distribution lines underground, it's anywhere from 5 to 20 times more expensive than putting them overhead. And so a lot of utilities just put them overhead because it's cheaper, right? Um, and utilities, they're willing to spend 10 or 15 years sometimes, to get the permits. They're willing to be patient. But we can't wait. The electrification of everything in the world, vehicles are going electric, heating is going electric, data centers are using huge power, and with AI, it's going to go up by 5x. And so why it's needed is if we can bury the power lines for about the same price as overhead, instead of 5 times more expensive or 20 times more, if it's about the same price, which is true with our technology, then there's no reason for utilities to go overhead, right? Everything can go underground, and it makes the grid more resilient. In fact, according to US and European utility data, underground power lines are 9 times more reliable with also 10 times fewer truck rolls. So we're making it affordable to put the power lines underground, making the grid more resilient and be able to rapidly accelerate more low-cost clean energy like solar and wind, which is stuck. Last thing I'll say is 80% or 4 out of 5 solar and wind projects in North America are put on the back shelf. They're abandoned, canceled, or put on pause after spending $500,000 or a couple $1,000,000 getting all the permits and doing interconnection grid studies. Why do they put them on pause? Because when the studies come back from the grid operator, it's like, okay, there's no room, or you have to make massive upgrades because the grid is, 70 years old in this location or whatever. Because it takes so long to build new transmission lines, 80% of solar and wind projects are not getting built. This will unlock that and allow us to lower our power bills and meet the rising power demand.
Okay, this is a perfect segue to my next question. What are you doing differently? So you can excuse my ignorance. I'm really not in the space, so all the numbers, flew over my head. So did I understand right that what you said just meant the cost will stay the same? However, you're drastically shrinking the time to build. Is that right, or did I?
That's right. The cost will stay the same going underground. It's much faster, like up to 10 times faster for permitting, and going underground means the system is more reliable
So same price, but better quality and
and
faster.
faster. Exactly.
So do you know the time reduction? Like, is it 90%? Is it 50%? Like, what is it?
Yeah, like for example, in Texas and California, Nevada, and Georgia, those are 4 states where we're actually developing projects. We've talked to almost 30 different counties and state departments of transportation because another thing we're doing differently, our company, is we have been approved as a regulated telecommunications utility in 46 states. So as a utility, we have a certificate of public convenience and necessity, which means nobody can say no. We go to the county that owns the road or manages the road. As a utility, they have to give us the right of way and a permit to put our tunnel underneath the road, as long as we meet all the local codes and we give them the engineering plans and blah blah blah. Right? Has to be done properly, of course. There's a process to follow. And so, talking to all of those counties and state DOTs, we've learned that we can get our permits anywhere from a few weeks in Maryland and California, anywhere from 12 to 18 months for state roads and 4 to 6 months for all of the county roads. And then nobody can stop us. We can start construction. Whereas I've been in this industry for 30 years, doing power plants and utility infrastructure and building overhead transmission lines. Minimum to get the permit is 7 years. The average is 15 years. And we're talking about being able to do it in weeks to maybe 1.5 years.
Wow. Okay. So that is significant saving. Um, when you say like they can say no, who cannot say no? What does it mean?
So that means when a new overhead transmission line is proposed by whoever, and many of them are private companies, not utilities that build transmission lines. It's called a merchant transmission line when it's owned by, a private investment company or an infrastructure company. So when they propose it, communities along the way are like, what? Hold on. We don't want transmission line going through my neighborhood. It's going to give my kids cancer. It's going to lower my home value because it's really ugly. Everybody fights it, right? And so when it's proposed, because they're going through private property, there's no way to avoid having public hearings at the county level or the city level, right? And so then all the neighbors show up and they're screaming and saying all these things, and the commissioners who are elected politicians, they're like, they don't want to make all their constituents mad. And so this is how these projects get stopped. And it's called people who are NIMBYs, and
Yeah,
not in
not
my
in the backyard,
backyard.
right? Yeah.
Yep. And then there's been bananas, which stands for build absolutely nothing anywhere near anyone.
I'm learning so much. Great.
Yeah. And so the NIMBYs and bananas kill or stop over 90% of overhead transmission projects. They never get built because communities fight them, right? And they don't need much money. They just have to be well organized and really vocal and loud and be kind of scary to the politicians. But as a utility, if we're going underground and we're following the roadway and we're not going through private property, there's no public hearing at all. So
Right,
there's no opportunity for the NIMBYs and bananas to show up and try to stop the project.
right. Then does that mean that somebody needs to propose to build something and then that's where you guys coming as a supplier?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
Like, so when you're saying like maybe a private firm proposed, build an
Yeah.
overhead, whatever, and that got shot down. So, so can you guys be the one to propose to use?
Oh,
Oh, okay.
yes. Yes.
Okay.
In fact, we already have. Yeah. We are actively working on developing, we call it our boom model, build, own, operate, and maintain. But we're actively developing 3 privately owned underground transmission projects to enhance the grid and accelerate up to 6 gigawatts of new solar and wind power that we can add to the North American electric grid. And then we're going to start doing the same thing in Europe and in Asia.
Okay. So excuse my ignorance. Like 6 gigawatt, is that a lot?
That's a lot. That's
That
like
is a lot. Okay.
That's like having 600 nuclear power plants.
Oh wow. Okay. Um, that's a perfect way for the next question. Then what's the unique stuff you're doing? Like, tell me more about the project you're doing. Like, what's the unique model here?
Yeah, so the unique model is to, well, like I said, boom, and then badass is our boring and drilling as a simple service and boring and digging as a simple service. So instead of building these plasma tunnel boring
Yeah,
robots and
yeah,
plasma excavators and selling them, we're
yeah.
not selling our machines. All right. We're not an equipment sales company. Instead, we're doing boring as a service or tunneling as a service where we own the machine. Our people operate it because we have 7 years of testing and research and development. We've developed over 1,200 trade secrets that we will never patent. And these are things like our recipes for each kind of rock, because there's 7 to 10 variables we can modify to optimize our rate of progress through each type of rock and soil and sand and clay and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so yeah, that's unique because we're not going to sell the machine. So either we do tunneling or excavation as a service, or as I mentioned, our boom model, we will. By the way, the tunneling as a service that generates revenue and nice profit margins of 60% to 200%. And in fact, we've heard from many construction companies that they don't even bid on a lot of projects in hard granite or basalt because they have no solution for it. They can't get through the rock without using dynamite, and dynamite is not allowed next to schools or churches or homes or there's a lot of places where you can't use dynamite or next to substations because it'll wreck the transformer. Anyway, and so as a result of these companies are like, you can charge whatever price you want because a lot of jobs nobody can do it. And so that gives us a really nice advantage to make really good margins. But the boom model, we own the infrastructure and we can charge a toll on all the commodities flowing through. So all of the, power, data, water, gas, freight, and eventually people that are moving through our tunnels that we own. Again, because we're a utility and we get to own our own tunnels, that's our hack to be able to, accelerate permitting and own the infrastructure. That's going to generate revenue for 100 years. All
That's
tunnels are designed to last for a century. And if we're charging a toll and collecting revenue on everything flowing through our tunnel, that's some true passive income.
that's crazy. Do you know roughly what's the return on that? Like, percentage
Yeah.
wise?
Yeah. The 2 projects that are farthest advanced, one that's moving initially about 1.5 gigawatts of solar and wind power from West Texas to San Antonio and Austin. That project, and by the way, we can raise non-dilutive capital for that. Once we get the rights of way and the permits in place, then we get a contract from like a big tech company or a data center or somebody that is investment grade with very good credit. Then we can get a loan to construct the project from, we have Bank of America we're working with, Morgan Stanley, Sovereign Wealth Fund out of Kuwait, and many others we've talked to, but those are the 3 that are the most eager. So it's non-dilutive capital to build the project. And we've proposed the project is about initially, yeah, about 1.5 gigawatts. It'll generate approximately $30 million a month of revenue just with power and a little bit of fiber it's a 2.2 year simple ROI, 2.2 year payback.
Holy, that's like roughly like 48 or 50% return per year. And after that, it's just pure cash flow.
Pure cash flow, exactly. And that's without adding more fiber or more power. Once the tunnel's built, it's big enough to add more stuff, right? So then we can start adding more as we sign up more customers.
My God, I love monopolies. I really do. Okay. All right. So, okay. Um, you throw out a lot of projects here. So, like, where are they? Are they like in the proposal phase? Are they like actually in construction? Are they near completion? Like, where are they in the highway of being young to maturity?
Right. Look, we're still a startup. We've spent the last 7 years developing the technology. Our first machine is fully commercialized, and we're negotiating now 6 contracts. That's our excavator, which can dig ditches and carve out caves or bunkers underground or holes in the ground for ground vaults. Our tunnel boring robot, we've been testing all the subsystems, like removing all the spoils with vacuums and tunnel lining systems and all those things. And it's taken 7 years. But that machine, which will be our second machine, is being tested in about 3 weeks. We're going to punch a hole, a 10-meter long tunnel through the side of the California mountains in very hard granite. So we're very excited. I've been waiting for this moment for 8 years. So until the 2 machines were commercialized, we could not start construction.
Mm.
Um, but we knew that the commercialization was soon. So last year we started doing the development work, meaning getting the permits and the rights of way. We talked to, like I said, the 30 counties, and we know now what we need to submit. So the investment round we're raising now, we have $1 million out of the 7 million we're raising. We've set aside in our use of funds $1 million to finalize getting those permits and signing the rights of way agreements so that the Texas project and the California Nevada project are fully de-risked, meaning we have 100% of the rights of way and 100% of the permits in place and signed. Once that's done, which should take 6 months from the time we have the cash from this funding round, so maybe next summer, let's say, assuming we close the round early 2026, then summer or fall of next year is presumably when we'll have all of those permits in place. Then we'll go start talking to the big tech companies and say, hey, we have a tunnel that's approved, it's de-risked, we're going to be moving power, do you want some? And they'll be like, well, how much is it? And we'll say, well, we already signed the contract, which we have in both cases with solar farm developers. So we know what we're buying it for. We'll mark it up, probably double, and sell it to them on the other end. And that's the profit, right? And that's how we finance the tunnel. So we sign a contract with a big tech company, call it fall of next year. And once we have that contract in place, then we go to the big project finance people like the Bank of Americas of the world and say, all right, we have a de-risked project. All the permits are in place. We have a customer who's our anchor tenant, has a 2 year or 3 year payback or whatever it is. Give us the money for a construction project. And these companies are eager to do that with really good credit customers like the big Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Meta, blah, blah, blah. So then we would start construction probably either end of next year or early 2027.
Right. Okay. Okay. Um, so, and you talk about the trade secrets. So do you have any patent or no?
Yes, we have 162 patent claims published globally,
Okay.
and that's across 8 patent families.
Okay.
And so, yeah, basically no one can use plasma for tunneling or excavation anywhere in the world without infringing on our patents.
Wow. Okay. So you do have tons of patents, but you also have hundreds plus trade secrets, which you're not going to publish. Okay. Okay. That
Correct.
makes sense. Okay. So from what I'm hearing, the machines are not fully tested yet. Is that right?
No, not right. Our excavator is fully tested and
Okay.
making money.
Okay. So I was gonna wait for later to talk about. So just very roughly, what's your AR right now? Or do you even go by AR model?
Not well, our boom model will be ARR, but right now it's our badass model where we're doing construction work. So this machine, the first machine that's ready, so one machine is ready, making money. That machine should make anywhere from $2 to $4 million a year. Once we, scale up and get people comfortable with the technology, it's a new technology, and construction companies are conservative and so are utilities. So it takes a little while for them to get for them to get comfortable. So by this time next year, it should be generating, let's call it 2 or 3 million a year
Okay.
for the first machine. The
Okay.
second machine should be ready early next year for commercialization, and it should make at least half again as much. So call it maybe 3 or 4 million per year per machine. And the CapEx of each machine is about the first machine, the excavator, CapEx is about 1.5 million, and CapEx on the second machine is about 2.5 to 3 million. So the machines, they'll last for decades. A lot of civil construction machinery does last for decades with regular maintenance. And so they should pay for themselves in less than a year, and of course last for decades.
Right. But so far, what's realized revenue? Do you have any?
Very, very little, because it was only 3 months ago that our first machine was commercialized. So we made about a half a million dollars so far on a couple of small projects, but we are bidding on 7 projects right now, including one for one of the world's largest tech companies based in the San Francisco area. So yeah, if we won half of the contracts we're bidding on, which I think is good because many of them they're asking for no vibration, non-contact, environmentally safe technology for and nobody else can really do that, right? So and environmentally, we got our first project approved in California. If we can get it approved in California, we can get our technology approved anywhere. But anyway, to answer your question, if we got half of those bids, that would be somewhere between $2 and $2.5 million of revenue.
Okay. And that's not a SaaS model. So what about a SaaS model? Like, when do you think you're gonna start generating that?
Yeah, like I said, if we start construction on the first 2 BOOM projects in, let's be conservative, say early 2027, construction should be done. Our piece should be done within months, but all of the other infrastructure, the substation equipment and all of that, supply chain is a real uncertainty right now with transformers. But a ballpark could be end of 2027 or early 2028. Those will start generating significant revenue, like tens of millions of dollars per month of revenue each project. And we'll have contracted revenue, like 10, 20, 25-year contracts with our customers. So we'll know that revenue is coming in for decades. That will make EarthGrid very valuable. And Bank of America has been working with us for 18 months because they want to take us public at that point, once we start seeing that cash flow from those SaaS or BOOM, what we call our BOOM model.
So that's gonna be in 2028.
2028, 2029 is a pretty realistic target for that based on where we are as a company, yes.
Okay, you stake a fork on the ground. That's 2099. I'll replay this when the time comes.
Yeah. Well, it all depends on raising enough capital
course.
to get to the next phase, but yes.
Right. And let's talk about then if that's the case, let's talk about the raise first. Where is my okay? Real numbers so far. Okay, let's talk about this section first. Yeah, let's talk about the raise first. So we talked about the real number so far a little bit. So like, what are you raising for? How much you're raising? What's the valuation? And what's the risk that you see? Like, what's your forecast? Like, just give us this. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, I should say that I'm pretty committed to my company. I have personally invested $13 million US into the company. And so I bootstrapped and paid for everything for the first 5 years. We've raised a total of just over 50, I think like $51 million of equity in the last 7, I guess 8 years now. Our current raise is a Series A. We have a term sheet signed with 2 co-lead investors who have strong domain expertise, one in deep tech companies and energy companies, and the other one has military and construction expertise, including one of their limited partners is one of the largest tunneling contractors in North America. Anyway, we're raising $7 million at a $95 million pre-money valuation. It's a priced round. It's $1.05 per share, depending on how much we raise. It'll be if it's $7 million, it'll be $1.05. We have oversubscribed every single round we've ever raised. People get very excited about what we're building here. So I'm sure we'll oversubscribe this round as well. In fact, it looks very likely based on it's only been open 3 weeks and we already have over $3 million of commitments. And so it's going pretty well, despite it being a difficult fundraising environment for a lot of the companies and founders out there that I hear from. So we'll probably raise 10 million in this round, oversubscribe up to 10 million. So that would imply a 105 million post-money valuation. And they're preferred shares, not common, it's preferred shares in this round.
Okay, so that's pretty late usually. I mean, but I mean I don't do a lot of the super early one. I also do a lot of late stage one, but this one, so this one is already Series A. Valuation is already pretty big. But it just sounds so exciting. I understand why people oversubscribe every round because it is sounds so far it's a game changing technology if what you said is true. Chances are you're probably gonna have a quasi monopoly on this, right? So
We think so, yeah. And by the way, we do public demonstrations of our technology. So any one of your listeners who want to see our technology, we do those and we announce them on our YouTube channel and our social media and stuff like that regularly. And so we can invite people to come see a demonstration. One of our machines is in Europe right now, in Norway. The first machine that's commercialized because there's projects over there we're bidding on. But we also do demonstrations in California, and we'll be doing some in Texas and on the East Coast of the US and other parts of the world as we get customer contracts. We're asking our early customers, hey, we'll give you a bigger discount if you let us bring some of our potential investors over to see the machine in action. And so far, everybody is saying yes to that.
so no risk there, no physical risk there. You're pretty confident.
Yes, correct.
All right, so there's no explosion, no whatever. Okay, that's cool. So wow, okay, so it's interesting that you actually put 13 million and then you raise funds after that. Is that why? I guess that's probably because I think you still have a lot of shares, but I think you're giving away a larger chunk than usual. At least from the pitch that I've heard over the years. Is that purely because of the funding issue, or is it?
Yeah, well, I guess two things. It's funding, because I put, most of my liquidity into the company. And so, I could start selling off real estate assets and other stakes in other privately held companies that I've invested in because I'm an active angel investor myself.
Yeah.
But that's part of it. Also, I love the idea of democratizing the ownership of
Right.
utilities and infrastructure. And so I think that's really cool to be able to do that. And then last and not least, this is a very capital intensive business. We're not software, we're hardware, and we're not normal hardware. We are industrial hardware where you're buying $500,000 air compressors and $500,000 chillers on the trailer, to operate the machine, the balance of systems. So it's an expensive, and then we had to build out all these various subsystems. No one has ever done what we're doing. We've built the first plasma excavation machine in the world and the first plasma cutter head for a tunnel boring machine in the world. And just doing the spoils removal, which means, removing all the debris. Basically, our machines turn everything into sand and dust and a little bit of lava. There's like 20%, up to 20% of the rock will melt and literally create lava. Removing lava from a tunnel is not an easy problem to solve. And so our spoils removal system, which we called Thunderdome, we had to go through 7 iterations. It took 2 years. A lot of stuff broke, a lot of mistakes. We learned so much. And it was only April of 2025 when we successfully, figured out the right process for the spoils removal. And it's solid state, meaning no moving parts. It's amazing to watch. And we filed some new patents on that as well, and also a whole bunch of trade secrets. So anyway, it's very capital intensive. Now, although my share has gone down to like 16 or 17% of the company, I do have a lot of stock options. If I were to exercise those, that would probably get me back up to like, low 20% range, something like that.
Okay, so now you have, right. So now you own like 10+% of the company and your stock weren't could get you over 20%. Is that what I, okay.
Correct. Yeah, I'm over 15% now and I could get over 20%. Yes, correct.
Okay, that is low for, wow, okay, okay. Are you not, if you have such strong conviction in this, wouldn't you want to hold a lot more?
I would, and the I would like to, yes. And the board does have in my employment agreement, which was done a while ago, I do have the ability to earn a lot more stock options. Not as crazy as the package Elon got, not even close, but as the company starts generating profit and revenue and builds boom projects, if we do everything that I believe we'll do, I'll probably get back up to over 30% ownership in the company.
Okay. Okay. It just sounds like you must, I don't know, it just, to me, it feels like if I'm the founder with such a good exclusive technology, which I think I'm gonna monopoly this thing on Earth, like I wouldn't like
I
I
just I just ran out of cash, so I had to be
okay.
generous. And and
Honest,
it's a and it's a tough market, right? I mean, our
yeah.
valuation in the last 3 years round and this round is quite a bit lower than I had hoped, but the lead investors negotiated hard and they came down a lot in valuation. And we're like, okay, fine, we got to do it because the potential is so great. So I'd rather own 30% of a $100 billion company than 40% of a nothing company that didn't make it because we ran out of cash.
That's true. But it also says to me your board is shark. Like, do you guys do you guys have good working relationships?
We do. It's just about capital. That's it.
Okay, it's just okay, okay. That makes me feel
Yeah.
better. Okay, okay. Wow, that's definitely some really hard negotiation. I don't think I can imagine. Okay, um, you mentioned just now the outlook. So what is the outlook? Where do you think the revenue will go, valuation will go? Is this a down round from before, or is this like a up round, or and what do you think valuation when it goes public? What do you think the stock's gonna do?
Yep. No, it's an up round. Our last round was $75 million pre-money. This one is 95 million pre-money. So it went up, it's been about a year, but it went up by $20 million.
Right.
So it's an up round. Our burn rate is around $400,000 a month. We have a fairly small team, about 20 people. More than half are engineers and technical
Mhm.
people.
Mhm.
And we think we can be cash flow positive, possibly by the end of next year.
Mhm.
For sure, again, assuming the tunnel boring robot tests go well over the next month or two, and we get our second machine out there, then yeah, being cash flow positive within 18 months looks like a realistic timeline. We have three investment banking teams, including Bank of America, who have said, hey, look, you get some of these contracts for your first machine signed, and you demonstrate your second machine, the tunnel boring robot, out in the field by the end of the year, early next year, or whatever. Those two milestones are so big that they believe that they can raise $100 million round, a Series B, at a $300 million to $500 million valuation, which would be 3x to 5x. And then the same group, as I mentioned, wants to take us public, and they think we can go public at a $2 to $4 billion valuation, as long as we have at least two of our boom tunnel projects either under construction and/or with contracts signed.
How confident are you?
Very. This is not my first rodeo. I built a Deca unicorn that is now
Yeah.
worth $35 billion. I know how to build infrastructure. I know what the market needs to see for, non-dilutive project finance capital to build infrastructure projects. There are way more pockets of capital available for infrastructure than there are quality projects. So that capital is aggressively trying to find good developers, good teams that know how to develop infrastructure projects that need, construction loans and that will spin off cash for years. I've been doing this for 30 years, and the numbers are way better for tunnels than they were for solar farms or wind farms. And they were good for solar farms and wind farms, but they're way better for this.
I have to say you are the first decacorn I've interviewed.
Okay.
So yeah, that's definitely something. Now because okay, so okay, sure. Two big milestones. How far are you into the milestone? Like how from what I heard, like are there already signed contracts? You say there's a big pipeline, but are there already signed contracts?
No, not yet. Because again, it was only 3 months ago that we
Yes.
had a machine ready to go. And it takes a while to
Right,
find a project, and then
right,
they have to issue a bid or an RFP or a tender for the project. And we respond. And anyway, so we're going through that process now that we finally have a machine ready to bid on projects.
right. Wait for that's 8 years of waiting for finally have the product out. Um, okay, so all right, that sounds logical. Um, but what can fail this?
Yeah, so we've
Risks.
been
Yeah.
told by many outside experts in civil construction, not only tunneling, but also trenching and excavation and so forth. We've been told by many, many experts that the stage where we are now that we've figured out the spoils removal, which was by far the most difficult technical challenge, we've been told that there's no more tech risk. It's now execution risk, system integration risk, which is what we are literally doing right now with our tunnel boring robot. We're integrating all of these subsystems, the spoils removal, the navigation, the propulsion, the sensors, the heat management, tunnel support and lining and all these different things, umbilical and, balance of plant delivery systems. So all of that we've tested individually, we've integrated that onto one machine, and happy to share pictures, and we've shared some on our social media channels or whatever. But anyway, that system integration risk will be solved, check by, let's call it late 2025, Thanksgiving or the holiday season. So that'll be behind us. And then it's just execution risk. And me and my team have executed many, many times, I've been doing this for many, many years. So we think the risk is really pretty low. The only risk that keeps me up at night is, will we be able to continue to raise capital to keep extending the runway until we can get to cash flow positivity? And we're so close. In fact, I wrote a memo to my board, my investors, and my staff called Unstoppable Earth Grid. We are within 12 to 18 months of being unstoppable as a company. And the key element there is to get to cash flow positive. And we're so close now that we finally have figured out all the technology.
This is so weird because like what you said, all the stuff that you think is easy, like I'm like, I don't think a lot of people can do that. To me, that's like flew over my head. Like I have no idea how to do any of those, and that sounds like a super hard job. Whereas fundraising is like sounds so. I've been doing that for like so many years. Like it's so easy for me. Like there's abundant capital, there's abundant risk capital, there's abundant investors who love to partake in something that's like possible to game changing, world changing. Like that's not the hard
Well, for me, that's the hard part. I
part.
have self-funded a lot of my companies over the years, so raising capital, although I have demonstrated I'm quite good at it, it's not it's not something that I have a whole lot of experience with. Whereas I've
Really?
been to probably over 1,000 public hearings to get permits approved for solar farms and wind farms, where people show up and say, oh, your solar panels are going to blind me and my children, or your wind turbine is going to throw ice off the blade 4 kilometers away and come through my living room and kill my family. That stuff that people think is hard. It was hard initially, but I've been doing it for so long that, yeah, I view that as pretty routine.
I love how skills and talents complement each other because like as an investor, like you bet on founders. I mean, you're an investor yourself. Like you bet on founders because the founder can do what you cannot do, right? And and that's why we give our hard-earned money to like people like you, to make things that we personally cannot do happen.
Fair enough. Fair
It's
enough.
beautiful. It is beautiful. Okay, so really, you think the technical issues it's not a non-issue, and
Right.
execution risk, like it's not a risk for you guys because you guys have done it so many times. You have a mature team and you have the track record under your belt. It's really fundraising, and it's not even too much. Like what, 7 million you're raising, like 7 or 10? It
Yep.
okay, all right. So if what you said is true, then to me it's not very risky. But obviously I cannot disclaimer here. Everybody do your own due diligence. Everybody do your own due diligence.
Of
Um,
course.
right? I cannot assess the risk here. But um, okay. Another thing is this is such a hard asset, and right, this is such a hard asset play. So
Yes.
mm, are you not worried about, the budget grossly exceeding I mean the realized cost, the expense grossly exceeding the budget, and this needs repair, that needs maintenance, like just the capex by itself. Like, are you not worried about that along the way as you go forward?
Again, I've been doing this for a long, long time and have raised or arranged tens of billions of dollars of capex for solar farms and wind farms. And the budgets for these things, early on, uh, yeah, there were a lot of mistakes and a lot of learnings and so forth. And I've learned over the years how you make sure you're not wearing the risk that you can't deal with. So, for example, the only real cost that we have that's variable for tunneling or excavating is the price of power. That's our biggest operating expenses. To run the machine it takes electricity. Just like to run a tunnel boring machine, it takes electricity. We use a lot less electricity than conventional because we go so much faster.
Mhm.
But nevertheless, it's still by far our biggest cost. The good news is you can lock that in. You can actually sign a
That's right.
contract. So you
That's
know
right. That's
exactly
right.
what your electric price is, right? So that's
Yeah.
not hard.
Yeah, you can manage it. You have it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. And then all the other stuff that goes in the tunnel, like power lines and
Yeah.
substations and all that,
Yeah.
we're not going to wear that risk. We're going to hire a big company, an electrical contractor like a Quanta or a Trailer or Burns and McDonnell, or, there's so many of them out there, and we'll run a bid process. And they're huge companies with billions of dollars of bonding capacity, right? And they'll have to issue a bond to guarantee that they come in, within their budget, or, maybe they get a 5% margin over whatever it is, right? So we negotiate all that, and they wear the risk of supply chain risk or components or whatever. So we will, we're good. Me and my team, we're good at doing this.
So then, this as we're peeling this, I find the risk is getting lower and lower. Okay, then so where is the capital intensive part for you? Is that just production cost for the machines, for the robots?
Correct. It's production costs for the machines and then the development costs, like to secure the rights of way for a tunnel that goes from, say, Del Rio, Texas to San Antonio, as an example. That's about $1 million to $1.5 million because you have to do engineering for each segment, and submit your engineering plans to the county so that they can grant us the permit and the rights of way. And, so we have a budget for that. So there's cost there. And, for a project that we own, we have to spend that, call it $1.5 million per project. Plus we have to build the machine, actually two machines to be able to do it faster. They meet in the middle, one on either end, they start anyway. And so, call it 2.5 million, 3 million per machine. So 6 million plus a million for the development. You're looking at $7 million of CapEx to develop the project and build the two machines to build it. And then, there's no revenue at all until the project is completed. Of course, you get a construction loan, so it's non-dilutive, and they even defer the payments of the loan. It's PIK, so principal and interest is basically kind of work in kind until the project achieves commercial operation. So that's nice. But but you have to have that $7 million to get it done. The good news is once that project is under construction, you get reimbursed for the cost of the machine, not the cost of development that you get at the end once it's operational. But the good news is those two machines, once they're done, we now own them and they can be used on the next project. So it lowers our CapEx substantially for the next one.
You guys are a developer. In all sense, you guys are a developer. Instead of
Yes.
doing condos, you guys are doing tunnels.
It's underground real estate.
Yeah, it is underground real estate. It is exactly that.
That's right. We will own the underground. We actually trademarked TerraSpace. So instead of aerospace, it's TerraSpace, like Earth space.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we're an underground real estate developer.
But then you're okay, that's a model that's so okay, that's a model that I think people can really easily understand now. Now, but then as a developer, you actually have a cheaper cost if honestly, if I look at what you just said, because for a subdivision developer, you need like 3 to 500 million, whatever. But for you guys, each tunnel is what, like 7 million? So it's actually a lot less capital expense. But then
Yep.
your revenue um would be still pretty significant. Like how much revenue do you think you can generate per tunnel per year?
Right. Well, we have sophisticated financial models that we worked
Yeah.
with Bank of America's team and outside consultants to build these models. But just if all we did was build a tunnel for one data center and we're
Yeah.
selling them power and we're selling
Yeah.
them data over fiber, it's going to generate somewhere between 23 million and $40 million per month of revenue. But the CapEx is 800 million, because our tunnel is only like whatever, 40 million, 50 million, but the substations on each end and the power lines and all of that other infrastructure, that's where the real cost is, right? So it's $800 million CapEx. Again, all of that is covered with non-dilutive construction loans, right? But as I said earlier, the payback is like 2 years.
Okay. So what you're saying is that if you okay, let me see if I get this right. If you spend 7 million front, do the tunnel, just do that simple version of what you just said. Your upfront is 7 million and your non-dilutive debt is like 800 million, and then you're able to generate 400 million a year, roughly.
Correct. Correct.
Has anybody been able to do this before?
No, people have done this overhead,
Yeah,
but it takes 15 years to
right,
do that.
right,
Yes, so yes and no. People have done it,
right.
and that's why merchant transmission line companies are aggressive trying to build these transmission projects because they're incredibly valuable if you can get the permits, but it takes them 15 years. So no, no one has done this underground yet.
Okay, but that 400 million revenue, you validated it and people have done it before, and the 800 million cost is validated and people have done it before?
Yes, and yes. In fact, there's a government report issued by the United States Department of Energy that actually publishes, if you build a new transmission line between Oklahoma City and Dallas, here's how much it's worth just solving grid congestion, even if you don't have a single customer, with no customers at all. If you just have a copper wire between point A and point B, it's worth X amount. That's publicly available data.
Okay.
It's incredible. Yeah,
It's
and it's so hard to do this that it's so hard to build stuff in America and in Europe. That's why I started the company because this is
I'm
like one of
learning
them.
so much. I am learning so much. Okay, so this is a good segue to where we skip. Okay, then right. That's because that's why you start a company. So you must see the market's huge, right? So how big is
It,
the market?
it's huge. Yeah, just the electric utility market is $400 to $500 billion a year in terms of new transmission and new distribution lines that are needed. And that was before AI took off last year with OpenAI. And now the need for more power is even greater. So a year ago, most grid experts said we probably need around 300 new transmission lines in this country. And in fact, I wrote a book 20 years ago
I love it.
called,
Show
called
it,
the
what's the
called the Clean Power Revolution. Can't really say
Okay.
it very well.
Clean power.
Anyway, in the book, I say we need 270 new transmission lines. I wrote it 20 years ago. Now, most experts say we need not 300, but more like 500 or 600 new transmission lines to be able to power all these data centers. So anyway, so the market's bigger than $500 billion for that. Plus, on top of that, many utilities are now starting undergrounding programs. They realize they're causing most of the fires. in Texas and Colorado and California and Canada and Australia and all around the world. Most fires in some of these states are caused by overhead power lines failing in high winds or whatever, right? And so that's another $200 billion market to help utilities to bury their infrastructure. Now, and that's just electric. Now you can move on to telecommunications utilities, water, gas utilities, transportation of freight and people, carving out caves or bunkers for self-storage or storing critical infrastructure or records, or underground farming in areas like the Middle East where it's so hot during the summer that you can't farm without a greenhouse. Well, if you put it underground, it's much easier to control the climate. There's just unlimited applications. And then last and not least is mining. We've been told by several mining companies that have heard about us and come see our public demonstrations that we offer. They're like, wow, your technology, especially the tunnel boring robot, which is going to be ready in like 2 months, your technology eliminates the first 5 or 6 steps of following gold or platinum or uranium mines. And so that's another application that we haven't explored. That's a huge industry. So if you add it all up, it's like at least $1 trillion to $2 trillion is the TAM.
Wow. Okay. I, I was I was always wondering because like I'm in the investing space, so like I see a lot of deal flows, and I particularly do not pay interest attention to infrastructure play because like the returns are always like just a mediocre like 6-7% whatever a like
Right.
so why I guess well one thing is just because you said there is a lot of the market's huge, there's a lot of money in the market, I guess a lot of players in the market, but why considering the mediocre return, like why there's so many like investment in this space?
Yeah, I mean, I've made a lot of money for a lot of investors over the years, and the return on solar farms and wind farms, the unleveraged return is fairly low. It's like 7 to 9% unleveraged, and maybe
Right.
12 to 15% leveraged for typical projects in solar and wind.
Hmm.
For what I'm doing, and I've done that a long time, and a lot of investors have been very happy. But that's not an angel investment play or a VC or even private equity. The returns are too low, and the risk is very low as well. So when I first came up with this idea and started looking at the numbers, I was like, this can't be right. I'm like,
Right.
why,
Right.
this can't be right. Why is it that new transmission lines are so valuable? And then as I started really researching it and realized, okay, yes, transmission developers are pouring capital into this because the returns are so incredible. So it's just very, very hard to, as I said, to do the overhead lines. It's almost impossible. So because of community opposition. Anyway, but yeah, the CapEx for our piece of it, the tunnel piece, is quite low.
So uh, sure. The number you said aligns with my observation. What about tunnels then? You're saying it's much more profitable.
Yeah, it's really just because the CapEx is low, right? You have a low CapEx to bore the tunnel, but that was never the case. It's this world-changing technology that I popped out of bed in the middle of the night after hearing, one of my former employees who's a Navy SEAL bragging to his girlfriend in a bar about how his SEAL team used to go underwater, cut through the side of enemy ships, and anyway, that whole thing. So with a plasma torch. So yeah, it's the technology that enables these outsized returns, because typically underground transmission lines, like I said, are 5 to 20 times more expensive than what we can do.
Right. Okay, so from the numbers we just talked about, I think compared to the 79 or 15%, whatever, I think you effectively are saying the returns on the single tunnel, whatever, could be up to like 50%, which is a substantial higher than the 79 range traditional wind solar.
Exactly.
Uh,
Even if a lot goes wrong in the first few projects,
mhm.
it's going to be a really nice return.
That's why I like Monopoly. I really do like monopolies. Okay, that's what we specialize in our other products. So okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Look, my goal is to build an underground network of tunnels that spans the entire globe. It's crazy, audacious, I know. We're going to start with small projects in Texas and California and this and that, and then we'll start doing more, and then we'll connect it. Eventually, we'll have a super grid under North America, and then eventually we'll start connecting North America to Europe and Asia by going under the Atlantic and under the Pacific, through Alaska over to Japan and then to China and Southeast Asia, and then across the Atlantic through Canada, Greenland, Iceland, the Faroe Islands. We've actually done some preliminary engineering and we know we can do it. There's no reason why we can't other than, you know, time and money.
So that's exactly my question. And this is where I want to get into. Sorry, we're jumping around a lot today, but I just find that that's the natural flow of the conversation. So why can't you? I think you just answer yourself, right? Why? Like, it's to me, it's actually not a very audacious, like very big, ambitious goal. It's actually very natural for what you describe. If everything checks out in the end, like, why wouldn't you be able to do that?
Exactly. Exactly. There's no reason not to.
So I think really you're just constrained if everything really checks out, you're just constrained by how fast the capital pour in and how fast you guys execute, right?
Exactly.
Okay. So really there's competitors? Okay, there's no other people doing this on Earth?
There were two, now there's only one other one. Petra, we acquired all of their assets, or not all, but everything we wanted. They went out of business last year, so we acquired their assets. And it's a long story. They basically tried to steal the technology, and so full disclosure, for the first time in my life, I had to sue somebody, and did not work out very well for them. They're out of business, and we hired their best people, bought their equipment, bought their patents. The only other company that's doing anything with plasma underground is a Slovakian company in Eastern Europe called GA Drilling, for Geothermal Anywhere. And this is all in our data room and competitive matrix. They're years behind us, and they're only focused on vertical, and we're focused on horizontal and diagonal. So they can't do anything horizontal or diagonal without infringing on us. We could do some vertical without infringing on theirs, but we don't have to. I've been talking to Igor, their founder and chairman, for years. They're probably an acquisition target. We'll probably acquire them at some point. They've been struggling to raise money, so they're years and years behind us on trying to develop anything.
So then why did the first company that tried to copy your technology failed?
Why'd they fail? Because I sued them.
Oh, okay. So it's not because the market demand is not proven. Okay.
No.
Um, okay. What about Elon Musk? He's a boring company.
He does. And I think they'd be a great customer. And in fact, the Boring Company, Elon's company, reached out to us. Their CFO asked us for proposals about a year ago. So we gave them 3 proposals. They don't have any solution for hard rock, so we could help them with that. But they haven't really won any contracts other than Las Vegas. There's a lot of talk and a lot of show or whatever, but they have, they've proposed, I think, 30 or 40 different projects, but they haven't won any contracts other than Las Vegas. If they do win a contract and have a hard rock problem, they'll probably come to us to help them solve it.
Oh, so you guys are not a competitor? Because they're boring tunnels too.
They're boring tunnels, but in dirt and really, in soft soil and in
Oh.
dirt. Yeah.
Then how many of the market is like boring dirt tunnels and how much of the market is boring like rock tunnels then?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't have the answer off the top of my head. Our tunneling experts could tell you that are on our advisory board. It's probably about a third or 40% in rock and the rest in dirt. Actually, no, it's probably the inverse of that now that I think about it, because most of these tunnels are fairly deep. So a lot of them are going through rock. But conventional technology, a tunnel boring machine, that goes through rock is like 50 million, $60 million. They're as
Mm,
long as 2 football fields. They're massive. Almost all of them are left in the ground when they're done boring the tunnel because they're so big they can't get them out. Whereas like SpaceX reuses rockets, we're going to reuse our machines, and we have designs to do 10-meter and 15-meter diameter tunnels. We're not doing that yet. We're focused on smaller diameter right now for utilities. But anyway, even if it's dirt, and we can go through dirt, we're faster and cheaper in dirt too, but we're way faster and cheaper in rock.
you guys are the rock expert. Okay. That's
That's
a
right.
That's easy to remember. Okay, then who are
We,
your
we
clients?
rock.
You're wrong. Right, that's your tagline. That's your tagline. So who are your clients? We talk about a lot,
Yeah.
I think already. Can you just summarize it for clarity?
Yeah, for sure. So we're AI adjacent. We are not an AI company, but we're AI adjacent because we're helping to solve the power problem for data centers. So our clients are data center developers, hyperscalers is like our number one target right now, and we're talking to most of them. Utility companies, construction companies, and mining companies in that order.
Okay. What's your feedback from the data center guys?
They are eager. In fact, we're bidding. We just 2 days ago, 3 days ago, we just got invited to bid on a 5 kilometer long project for a data center from one of the world's largest tech companies. I think I may have given a little bit about that example. We've also had visits to our facility from three of the world's biggest tech companies based in San Francisco or Seattle. And several more who have sent their construction teams or their outside engineering experts or tunneling experts to our facility to see our technology. So they are very, very eager to see our tunnel boring robot go out into the field in 3 weeks. They are very eager to see that, as I am. Again, I've been waiting almost 8 years. So yeah, we can solve their biggest problem, which is getting power to data centers.
That that is, in this case, money, like time is money. The fact that you cut down significant time, I think for them is probably super crucial. Okay. Um,
Exactly.
right. So I don't know how to ask this question in your situation, to be honest. Like, how much are they paying you? How are they paying you? How's the revenue generated? I think you mentioned there's different ways to generate, so
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, the boom model, if we're buying solar or wind power at $40 and we're selling it at $100 per megawatt hour, that's a good price for them for a fixed price with no volatility and it stays flat for 20 years or whatever. So that's what they would be paying us. Fiber and water, it's, market dependent or whatever. And then for the badass, the boring as a service or excavation as digging as a service, that is generally per cubic meter, and it's typically anywhere from $50 to $300 per cubic meter of rock removed, which is, like I said earlier, nice margins for us. 60% to 100% margins are what we're focused on for that part of our business model.
so yes, that's my next question. So your margin is really fat. Um,
Yeah.
but why would they buy double the rate for their electricity instead of going to the electricity provider themselves?
That's not double. That's what they're paying today.
Oh, so you can generate a lot cheaper electricity.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, exactly. We can buy electricity from a solar farm for $40. That same solar farm developer either
Uh-huh.
can't get the power to the market at all because they're waiting for somebody to build a transmission line. Some of these projects have been waiting for 7 years before they've been waiting to start construction for 7 years and they're waiting for anybody to build a transmission line so they can build their solar farm and sell their power. So they also sell it for the same price they're paying, us, but then the wheeling cost in the grid to get it to the customer is, another 40, 50, $60 per megawatt hour. So the end user still pays the same. It's just going through our line instead of a 70-year-old line.
So, so I actually surprisingly understand this because I actually looked into GPU mining before, and I came across people who actually know studies of like the grid congestion, and it actually, because the transmission line was so jammed that it actually cost more to send the electricity out, so they dumped them.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's so frustrating. There are many, many times of the year in states like Texas, California, and California's economy is massive, right? It's the world's fourth largest economy. It just passed up Japan or excuse me, Germany. So anyway, California, Texas, Oregon, Washington, parts of Canada and New York. There are times when the grid operator turns off solar farms and wind farms literally shuts them off, it's called curtailment. They tell them to stop producing power because the grid can't handle it. And so there's all this wasted energy. And what happens is grid prices go so low during those periods of time because there's so much sun or so much wind, and the grid can't move it out to anywhere else, that wholesale power prices can go approach zero, and sometimes they even go negative.
Negative, yes. That ah, that's what a waste. What a waste. Oh my
Such a
goodness.
waste. And it's because of our dilapidated, antiquated grid that's falling apart.
This is what I love because you are truly solving a real, like a really hard problem that once solved can provide so much value. All right. No, this is great. Okay. We talk about how to get your clients, even give who your clients are, so that's good.
Yep.
We talk about your fixed cost a lot. Variable cost, like is that a lot
Power.
on your is that a lot or
Just power. Yeah. Electricity.
oh,
That's our only well, a little bit of labor, but power and labor are our two variable costs.
I was gonna say like to operate the robots and to actually do the construction, you would need a lot of labor or like the
Not not too many. We to operate the tunnel boring machine, we really just need two people because it's a semi-autonomous robot and they're both at the surface. Nobody's in the tunnel.
Mhm.
And then for spoils removal, we would just contract that out. You know, the vacuums dump it into a big bin on the surface at the job site, and we call up one of the local, construction aggregate companies, and they bring their dump trucks over, and their people pick up our sand. And we by the way, we can sell our spoils. Our waste product is sand and dust, and we can sell that because it can be used in concrete and asphalt manufacturing.
Right. And you would produce that in volume, so
Exactly.
okay. Um mm, I think we talk a lot about this one, the right pieces you have put together to make it work so far. I think from what I've heard is your repeated experience, your repeated exit, your mature team that have no like have very little execution risk, the technology, which I have no idea, how you guys got that, but you guys have that, and then really the right capital, it's what completes the puzzle. Is that
That's right. Well said.
okay? Okay. How deep is your moat? What is the chance of somebody come tomorrow and do crack the code?
That's one of my favorite questions. When I came up with this idea in the middle of the night in 2016, I was like, okay, if this works, this will either be a multi-billion-dollar company or a nothing, or if it doesn't work, it's a nothing company. And that's why I was willing to fund everything myself for the first few years. It was risky because there were some serious technical challenges to overcome. But here we are 8 years later, almost 9 years later now, I guess, and we've overcome all of those technical challenges. So I'm sorry. Now I guess I've lost your question.
Um, um, your how deep your moat?
Oh, the moat. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, yes, yes.
So, yeah, in addition to the 8 patents that we have filed, and many of them are novel, not just business process, but many, many novel patents, 162 claims. So, like I said earlier, that's pretty good. In fact, it's really good. No one can do anything with plasma underground other than GA drilling, doing some vertical stuff. But we'll license if we ever need to or want to start doing vertical, and we have no need to right now. But if we ever did, we can easily license, pay them a fee or acquire them or whatever. In addition to that, the trade secrets that I was talking about, it would take somebody at least 2 to 4 years to get the right equipment to actually build a machine to try to figure out the recipes for each kind of rock. And the reason why is we have exclusivity with key suppliers. All of them are North American suppliers. There's nobody anywhere in the world. Actually, with one exception. There's a company in Belgium, but no companies in anywhere in Asia that can provide what we need. But then what we did is we have many, many, many modifications to our plasma torches and the various subsystems behind them that nobody knows about. Those are additional trade secrets. So, but we have exclusivity with those key suppliers, so they can't sell this equipment to any other company that would compete with us. So it would be very hard. But if somehow somebody bought one of those companies and violated the exclusivity and said, "Oh, I'll see you in court" or whatever, with enough money, somebody could probably do that, and we would have to fight them in court or whatever if we wanted to. But even if they did that, it would take them years of testing to figure out the modifications we made because we're 8 years in now, right? Years of modification to figure out the right, because our suppliers don't know the modifications. And we silo various things that we do, so they'd have to figure that out. Then they'd have to do a bunch of testing on all kinds of rocks, ship 20-ton boulders in and figure all that out, all these different recipes. That would take another 1 to 2 years, even with hundreds of people. And by then we're going to be so far ahead anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we have realistically a 4 to 6 year moat.
So really time is your most important asset in this case. And I personally,
Yeah.
I also think if everything is true, then the market's vast, massive enough. Like even if there are going to be competitors, like the market will be massive enough, you can
Yes,
still make really good returns and provide a tremendous value, doing what you do.
for sure.
Okay. So how do you grow? What's your scaling model?
Yeah,
Because
well,
the reason, okay, before you say this, I actually have talked with a few other investors about, because I'm so excited, I cannot help it. It's like I start yapping away. And a consistent feedback is if you don't sell your machines and do as a SaaS model, it's harder and slower to scale. So this is this is a question I'm curious. So how do you grow?
yeah. We have so much interest, as we've been issuing, updates on our technology over the last several years on social media, and there's lots and lots of articles that have been written about our company and our technology. So people reach out to us all the time. We have over 20,000 validated bona fide customer contacts in our HubSpot CRM. And we send out letters, about every other month to our customers. The demand will far exceed the supply once we complete this milestone before the end of the year, before the end of 2025 on our tunnel boring robot is basically what we're sensing. But there's no guarantee, right? Fingers crossed that that's the case. But we have enough interest from the hyperscalers and tech companies, from utilities. We've been awarded pilot projects with the largest utility in the US, 2 utilities in Europe, a handful of other utilities in the US as well. There's not going to be any shortage of opportunities for us to get our machines out there and prove. And utilities never want to be first. They're conservative. They want to be 21st. But
Mm.
we have some utilities that are willing to be first, surprisingly. And then a ton of construction companies that have difficult hard rock problems that they want our machines to help them solve, to lower their geology risk and their their Gantt chart. They don't want their project to move to the right. They want the timing to move to the left on their Gantt charts. And we can eliminate geology risk for all of these companies. So our idea is that we will create great content, put it out there, word will start to spread, and we're not going to have enough people or machines to keep up with the demand. So our challenge, I believe, roughly this time next year, our challenge will be, how do we prioritize which customers we focus on?
Right. And you know what? That's actually the second part of my question. So what's the I do see bottlenecks, and what are the bottlenecks on execution delivery? I think because this is so I don't know how to say it, like labor intensive or whatever intensive, like it is so hands-on, like you gotta deliver, right? Like the developer, you gotta build. So you gotta deliver that. So like how do you deal with that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, it'll take us to build a third machine. We have the long lead time items in our warehouse. We spent the money wisely in our last investment round. We're a very scrappy company. I've been doing this a long time, so we don't waste money on things that are not necessary. But and so we could build a third machine in like 2 months. And so we have our first machine is out there bidding on projects, going to be making good money. Our second machine is 6 months behind, so it'll start making money, middle of next year. Our third machine we could build and get it ready in 2 months, and it can be either a tunneler or an excavator, depending on what the market asks for. And we have soft offers from Bank of America and others to give us non-dilutive capital when we get more contracts to order the components to build another machine and ramp up our facility. We have a lease at an old World War II tank factory in Richmond, California, that's a massive building, and we can take over the whole building. We're only in like 10% of the building now, but my family office controls the whole property. We lease out space to others. Most of them are month to month, so we can kick them out and start expanding into that space to increase our manufacturing capacity.
Right. So what you're saying is that let me know if I got this right or not. Sounds like people are not your bottleneck. You don't need a lot of labor. It's
Mm-mm.
the machines that are bottleneck, but it's production. But the production's bottleneck is really capital. But the capital's bottleneck is really the contract. So as soon as you got the contract, you can secure the capital, and then the capital will support the machine, which won't take years to build. It's going to be just a few months, and then you can have multiple of those working on multiple projects depending on the demand.
That's right. Our head of manufacturing on our team, Carmelo Frucci, he's great. We have a roadmap of how we can scale up to where we're making 10 plus machines per month within the facility that we're in now. We can see us getting to that point. We have line of sight to that.
What about training for the people who operate it and for people who manage each accounts, each different projects?
Yeah. So for work with utilities, they are very conservative. We've had to come up with like 30-page training manuals
Right.
and another 40-page safety plan and all these things we've had to document. So we have all of those, not all, but most of those processes in place.
Right. Okay. Okay. Honestly, it sounds like you have answered to every question. So that's it's also obviously thought about this over and over and over and over and over. So you alluded to your track record before. So just elaborate that more a bit more in the same
Okay.
industry, Decacorm. What did it get built? Who you sold to, and also like why did it want to do this? What was the eureka moment? Like
Yeah,
what's the
yeah.
original, like intrinsic, vision for that? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so the exits, yeah, my first company was telecommunications, sold that, started Tradewin Energy in the late 1990s, and that was the Deca Unicorn. I sold most of my shares in 2003 and 4, and that's when the company was probably worth a few hundred million, and then it became worth $35 billion in 2019. So I started the company, but I wasn't there when it was a Deca Unicorn. However, the team I hired, the entire management team that I brought in when I sold most of my shares to move to a different company, they stayed there and they were there until the exit. And the company was acquired by NL Green Power, who came in right as I was selling my shares. So I basically created that, and I had a nice exit there, and then it became a Deca Unicorn later. But people keep telling me, hey, it still counts, even though I wasn't still there when it
Right.
became a Deca Unicorn. Um, anyway, and then Macquarie, the big infrastructure company, also bought the solar assets, and the managing director of the group in Macquarie, I had lunch with him in New York City last year, and he was like, "Hey, thank you for starting that company. That was a really good transaction for us."
I bet.
So that's nice. And my early angel investors in that company are very happy. I still get Christmas cards every year.
So you made a lot of people a lot of money. Yes.
I did, yeah. And then I started a biodiesel plant and sold that, used that money to start Pristine Sun Solar Company, which raised $250 million of equity a few years ago in terms of project equity. So um, I had an investment bank say it's a unicorn in email, but I never got an official valuation done. So maybe I'm a two-time unicorn founder. I'm not sure, but and I'm highly confident EarthGrid will be a Centa unicorn actually. But anyway, so Pristine Sun, I had actually two exits there. We sold off a bunch of assets and paid off all the debt for the company, and took a bit of capital there and invested that in EarthGrid, and then a subsequent exit as well, where we bought out the private equity fund that invested $10 million in that company in 2011. We bought them out, and they got their 25% return that the private equity fund needed. So that was yet another exit.
Okay, great. And okay, so that's so you're in the same. So you're in the theme is really environmental and energy sector, right? So is that
Yeah.
why you started this? And there must be the eureka moment.
It is. The Eureka moment was when the Navy SEAL was bragging to his girlfriend, about the underwater submarine thing. And I was like, wait a minute. Popped out of bed in the middle of the night. I was like, I've always wanted to figure out a way to more cheaply put power lines underground because it would solve everything. That almost all of my problems, in wind and solar and biodiesel and because I'm a clean energy industrialist. I've been doing this for 30 years, building big infrastructure companies. I mean, the solar company did hundreds of solar farms across 22 states. Anyway, and so, yeah, that was the eureka moment. I was like, if we can affordably put power lines underground, it will change the world.
I think that's I sort of agree. Then after you all that said and done, you've done that, and you can write a masterpiece that's just like 20,000 leagues under the sea, something like that, right?
I don't know about that. I'm not bad at nonfiction, writing nonfiction. I don't know
Right,
about, yeah.
right.
Anyway.
Okay, so last topic, how to participate. So for my people, so do they have to be like accredited? What's the minimum? How do you like what's the process? How do you participate? And just people who follow me for a long time, the typical process is after you read my articles and read the website and watch this, you're interested, contact us and with the indicated amount, and we'll do a list and we will tally everything up and hand it to Troy, and you guys can knock yourself out and do your own due diligence with him, and everything else. Decision is yours. You gotta do your due diligence and make sure what you decide is good for you.
Exactly right. And from our perspective, no, people do not have to be accredited. And we have an SPV formed, and so if it comes through our current SPV, the minimum is $10,000 US. But if you form your own SPV and aggregate people, if the amount needs to be smaller than that, then that's possible. But yeah, obviously, reach out to you, to Cindy, and get the information you need, because we'd love to, have more people supporting EarthGrid as we democratize ownership of utilities and infrastructure and change the world.
That is like literally I have goosebumps. This is so good. This is for the first time I feel like I'm investing in something that will change the world.
We really will. It's only a matter of time. Yeah, and we're
Right.
going to get there. Look, failure is not an option. I have way too much capital invested in EarthGrid, and we have no debt, so there's no reason we
Yeah.
would fail, right? It's just it's time and money. We will get
Right.
there.
Right. Last question. Last two questions. This is interesting. So they don't have to be a credit investor? Is it because you guys are using different regulation?
Yeah, because of the Jobs Act, we don't have anything open right now, but we had a crowdfunding opportunity a
Got
couple of years
it.
ago, and so yeah, we've been told that people don't have to be accredited if they come in through an
Got it.
SPV.
Got it. Okay. So and last thing, I like to do this because I'm pretty pumped. I cannot wait to write this series and actually bring the content to my audience. This one is really good. If there's one thing, just one thing, forget about the fundraising, I mean, not forget about it, but like just putting all the fundraising and putting on the like company whatever aside. If there's one thing you want to share with my audience, and so they can walk away with that one piece of information or one thing, what would that be? What message do you want to send?
Hope. Our company, there's the world's kind of a crazy place right now, and there's a lot of things to be concerned about. But with this technology and with our business model, there's hope. We can make the world a better place. And that's what I want to do. So come join us. We've created a movement here and we'd love to have you participate.
Lovely. This is really good. Great. Thank you, Joy, for your time. I can't wait to
Thank you, Cindy.
publish
It's
this
been an
series.
honor.
Yeah.